back to my channel. Hope you have all had a wonderful day. Today's video is my reading wrap up for July. So I didn't read all of the books I set out to read, but I did read most of them. So I actually had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I had 8 books on my TBR. And I was doing the Check Your Shelf readathon that the lovely Nikki created. So yeah, they were the ones. I picked 5 books for the Check Your Shelf readathon, and then I picked a further 3 books just from my Bronte box for my normal TBR picks. So the one I didn't actually read was A Whisper of Wolves by Chris Humphrey. I got about 3 or 4 chapters into this and just realised it wasn't something I was particularly interested in at the time. So if I'm honest, I'm probably just going to declutter it and donate it to a charity shop or something like that. It just wasn't something that I thought was my cup of tea. It is a middle grade, but yeah, I just wasn't overly taken by it. So there's that one. Right, let's have a little look. Where are my books at? I don't know. I don't know what I've done with it. So I had the 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, and I actually gave that book 4 stars. I really liked where the story went, but I did find it quite confusing to keep up with sometimes, because he changes between characters when he falls asleep to obviously solve the death of Evelyn Hardcastle. I did find it a little bit tricky to keep on board with where he was and kind of what the overall gameplay was, but I really enjoyed the ending. I did not see it coming at all. I was not expecting what happened to have happened. I think I gave it the 4 stars just because it was a little bit confusing. So if it had been a little bit simpler, maybe I'd have given it 5, but it's definitely one that I'm going to hang on to and maybe reread in the future. But yeah, I really liked it. Now I have another book that I can't show you because I've already lent it to my friend. It is Laura Stevens' The Exact Opposite of OK. So that follows a girl called Izzy O'Neill who unfortunately gets wrapped up in a bit of a world where she has taken photos of herself to send to a boy in her college group, and those photos get out and she has to deal with the consequences of a really rather nasty blog. I was expecting to kind of find the book a bit difficult to read given the subject matter, but I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it gave a really good view on what was happening to Izzy, and there were moments where I just laughed out loud because you had to just give her confidence in it. It was such a good book. Nikki had been recommending it to me for ages, and then she bought me a copy. Thank you, Nikki. And yeah, I loved it. I would reread it. I did lend it to my friend just because she's feeling a bit down at the moment, and I felt like that book would cheer her up a little bit. It's funny, and it's a really heartwarming kind of book, even though it's got a bit of a sad subject matter. But yeah, it was really good. I loved it. And yeah, I can't wait to reread it again at some point. Oh, sorry, can I yawn? Oh. There you go. So the next book I have, and I don't have this one either, because I've already donated it. It was R.D. Wingfield's Night Frost, so it's one of the Inspector Frost books. It was the last one, I believe, that I had on my shelf, and while I quite enjoy the story, I do find it very repetitive. So obviously when it goes into a bit of a description about Frost, it talks about how like unkempt he is, how untidy he is, how he's a bit of a slacker, but at the end he gets the job done. And I feel like you're reminded of that in every single book. And I just didn't feel like I needed to know that after reading like 5 other books. So I only gave it 3 stars because I just kind of felt like it was a bit samey. So yeah, I donated that one. I do find with mysteries and things like that, I don't tend to reread them unless they're really, really good, because I just remember how they finish. So the Frost ones, oh dear. The Frost ones are ones that I tend to kind of get rid of. But I read it and I enjoyed it, but I probably wouldn't read it again. I mean, it depends. If you were really into the Frost books, then that's fabulous. I enjoyed hearing the stories, but I just wouldn't read them again. I'm quite interested in watching the TV series, but I haven't got around to that yet. Right, now I actually have some books to show you. So the first one I have is this one. I mentioned this in my TBR video. It is the Good Housekeeping Book of Fairy Stories by P.H. Murr. So I actually couldn't find this copy on Goodreads. It is too old to be on Goodreads, which is really sad. But I did find another fairy stories book with a similar page count, so I have just counted that as this, if that makes sense, on my Goodreads. If you head over there and have a look, it will kind of make sense. I really enjoyed reading these. I kind of read one every now and again. I didn't read it like it was a whole book, because there are obviously fairy stories. Cinderella, I don't think I've ever actually read the original kind of story, and it was a little bit scary, I have to say. So I wasn't really expecting that. What was the other one? Sleeping Beauty had a bit of a turn that I wasn't expecting. I think I'm getting a lot of my sort of fairy tale knowledge from Disney, so obviously a lot of these don't come into Disney. Oh dear, why were you going? It's only been 7 minutes. Snow White had a bit of an odd turn as well that I wasn't expecting. Beauty and the Beast was really nice. Hansel and Gretel, yeah, it was kind of what I'd expected. It was pretty much the original story that I knew. And Rumpelstiltskin is definitely my favourite. There are loads of different ones, but Rumpelstiltskin is my favourite. I just like the fact that she outsmarts him and she's able to guess his name. It makes me happy. So yes, I read it. I gave it 3 stars, because although I do love it, it's not something I will continue to like pick up every now and again. And I think some of the stories are a little bit scary for children, but it will continue to stay in my house forever, I imagine. So yeah, there is that one of it behind me. Then next up I have Scott Westerfeld's Uglies. So this book was recommended to me again by the lovely Nikki. She actually bought me the set for Christmas, I believe, off the top of my head, or was it my birthday? I can't remember. But I really, really enjoyed it. So it's a little bit Hunger Games-esque, but I really enjoyed the like perspective of this and the idea behind it. So the idea is that when you turn 16, you are able to become a pretty instead of an ugly. And there's like a rebellion, and I just really enjoyed it. It was really good. I gave it 5 stars. Me and Nikki are going to be reading Pretties in August. So I'm super, super excited for that. But I loved it. It was quite a short book, really, in the sense that it just read so fast. Like, I didn't want to put it down. I was so excited to keep picking it up and picking it up. I'm super annoyed though, because I put this in my handbag and it got, I don't know if you can see, it got like a crinkled edge and it makes me so sad. But yeah, it was really good. I highly recommend reading it if you're into that kind of dystopian world. I believe it's dystopian. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me. But if you're into that kind of dystopian world, then I highly recommend giving it a read. I'm really excited to see where Pretties goes with the rest of the story. And yes, there is that one. Next up, I read Sweetly by Jackson Pierce. I gave this one 3 stars. Now, I really enjoyed it, and I probably would read it again, but there were just aspects of it that I was kind of like, where is this going? So it's a retelling of Hansel and Gretel. And yeah, so it's a retelling of Hansel and Gretel, and I have to say it's a bit of it went in an odd direction, I felt. Yeah, I would reread it, but there were parts that I wanted more from, and some that I was kind of like, why is this part of the story? I really enjoyed Red Sisters, which was by Jackson Pearce, which is the Red Riding Hood retelling. I loved that. This one I liked. I don't know, maybe I need to give it more of a chance and reread it again at some point, but I just felt like parts of it were a little bit like, where is this going? So I did get a little bit lost with parts of it, but I also liked other bits a lot. So there's a small kind of romance in this one as well as in Sisters Red, and I kind of wanted a little bit more romance from them, but I get that's kind of not the point of the story. I'm just a sucker for a romance. But yeah, I liked it. I'll reread it at some point, I imagine. And then the last book I read was Beth O'Leary's Flat Share. So I wasn't expecting to love this one as much as I did. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was friggin' amazing. But I'd read a lot of people's reviews on Goodreads that kind of said that it was a bit like, meh. They couldn't really get on board with the chemistry. Whereas I was totally for it, totally on board, couldn't wait for it to all unravel, unfurl, and it to happen. So basically it follows Leon and Tiffy, who share a flat but not at the same time. So Tiffy has the flat in the evenings and Leon has the flat during the day. So they never actually meet each other until about 6 months in, I believe. Leon has lots of things going on in his world that him and Tiffy kind of communicate through notes, as well as Tiffy does. They kind of have this backwards and forwards through notes without ever meeting each other, and then they meet each other. And yes, I lived for it. It was amazing. I loved it. If you're into that kind of sappy, chick lit, warm and cozy, bit cheesy, I highly recommend The Flat Share. But yeah, that was it for the books I read. So I did read 8 books. No, I didn't. I read 7 books. I read 7 books in July. 8 was obviously on my TBR, but I didn't manage to finish A Whisper of Wolves. I'm okay with that. It was one that I'd picked up in a like book swap place, so I feel like I've got fluff in my eye. So I don't feel sad about it because I didn't spend any money to get it, but have bought a few books recently, which I really need to stop doing. So I am going to be taking part in a points-based system for like buying books. So it was created by teacher Incognito, and yeah, she came up with the idea. It was on her Instagram. I spoke to Nikki about it a little bit, and then I realised that I really needed to pull finger out of backside and try and do something similar, otherwise I was just going to keep spending loads of money on books. But yes, so that is my wrap up for July. I already have my TBR video out for August. If you would like to have a little look at what I plan on reading, then definitely head over and watch that video. But yeah, that's everything for me. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Please give a thumbs up and subscribe for more fun things to come. And if you have read any of the books I mentioned, let me know what your thoughts were in the comments section down below. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!